Back in the late 1980s, when supercars were still figuring out what turbochargers were, and America's idea of speed was a Camaro with T-tops, one man decided to rewrite the rulebook. Reeves Callaway, a racing instructor turned turbocharging genius, took a fourth-gen Corvette and transformed it into something that should have never existed. A street-legal, air-conditioned, radio-equipped land missile capable of doing 254.76 miles per hour. It wasn't just fast for a Corvette, it was fast for anything. Ferrari left in the dust. Lamborghini, not even a challenge. Even the Bugatti Veyron, nearly 2 decades later, had to work overtime to beat it. This is the story of the Callaway SledgeHammer, a car that proved American muscle wasn't just about the growl of a V8. It could obliterate the world's best with nothing more than good old-fashioned engineering and a pair of turbos the size of frying pans. But to understand the SledgeHammer, you have to understand the man behind it. Reeves Callaway was a name synonymous with speed, though not in the traditional sort of way. He wasn't born into wealth or handed the keys to a racing team. He was instead a driving instructor at Bob Bondurant's racing school. And like most people who don't have millions lying around, he had to make do with modifying cars that he could afford. His first experiment, a BMW 320i. He fitted it with a turbocharger, turned it into a missile, and impressed car and driver journalist Don Sherman so much that he got a feature in the magazine. That was it. One article and suddenly Callaway had become the go-to guy for turbocharging European cars in America. Soon enough, Callaway Cars was born, and before long, he wasn't just tinkering with BMWs and Audis, he had the attention of Chevrolet. You see, by the mid-1980s, the Corvette was quick, but it wasn't supercar quick. The ZR1 was still a couple of years away, and the factory-built model stopped out at around 240 horsepower, which, let's be honest, was a bit like calling a house cat a lion. GM needed more power, and rather than developing an entirely new engine, they gave Callaway a call. Thus, the RPO B2K package was born. This wasn't some garage special, it was a factory option. You could walk into a Chevrolet dealership, tick a box on the order form, and have your Corvette delivered with a Callaway twin-turbo system straight from the showroom. The result, a staggering 150 extra horsepower over the standard car. Not bad, but Callaway wasn't finished. In 1988, Callaway decided he wanted to go all out. He wanted to prove that his turbocharged Corvette was not just fast, but the fastest street-legal car on the planet. So, naturally, he built a car and named it after a blunt force instrument used to break things, because subtlety was never part of the plan. The SledgeHammer started life as a C4 Corvette, but by the time Callaway was done with it, it had more in common with a fighter jet than a sports car. Under the hood was a hand-built 5.7-liter V8, and when I say hand-built, I mean proper engineering witchcraft was involved. The block was blueprinted and reinforced, the crankshaft came from Cosworth, and the pistons were forged to withstand the sheer violence happening inside the engine bay. Then came the real magic, a pair of Turbonetics TO4B intercooled turbochargers that crammed so much air into the engine that the atmosphere was probably thinner wherever this car was driven. The result, 880 horsepower and 772 pound-feet of torque. Now to put that into perspective, in 1988 the Ferrari F40, the poster child of speed at the time, made just 471 horsepower, the Porsche 959 444 horsepower. I mean, even the McLaren F1, which arrived years later, had less power and torque than the SledgeHammer. But there was a problem. When you have too much power, aerodynamics stop being a suggestion and start becoming a life or death situation. The stock C4 Corvette bodywork simply wouldn't do. So Callaway called up Paul Deutschmann, a man whose job was to make cars cheat the wind rather than punch through it. The result was the aero body, a sleek, wide and vented body kit designed to keep the SledgeHammer glued to the road at speeds most cars would only see if you dropped them out of a plane. With everything in place, Callaway took the car to a 7.5-mile oval track at the Transportation Research Center in Ohio. And on October 26, 1988, with John Lingenfelter behind the wheel, the sledgehammer rocketed down the track, reaching an astonishing 254 miles per hour, or 410 kilometers per hour. At the time, this made it the fastest street-legal car in the world. It was faster than anything Porsche, Ferrari or Lamborghini had ever built. In fact, it wasn't until the Bugatti Veyron arrived in 2005 that another car managed to go quicker. Even then, the Veyron needed 16 cylinders, 4 turbochargers, and $1 billion development budget. The sledgehammer, it did it in 1988 with air conditioning still working. Now one would assume that after achieving such a monumental feat, Callaway would have put the sledgehammer into production, right? Well, no, because while it was technically street legal, there wasn't exactly a queue of people willing to pay for an 880 horsepower Corvette that could vaporize its tires at will. Instead, the car became a legend, a one-off that showcased what was possible if you ignored reason and simply built something for the love of speed. It eventually ended up being sold at a Barrett-Jackson auction in 2004 for $221,000. Then again in 2014 at a Macomb auction for $600,000. By the way, that's a crazy investment. Growing your money in 10 years from $200,000 to $600,000 isn't bad at all. But then in 2023, it was listed again for sale, and while the final price wasn't disclosed, let's just say that a respected collector probably had to sell an island to afford it. But at the end, today, people rave about the Z06 Corvette and the ZR1, and even the new mid-engine C8. And while they are all fantastic cars, none of them have ever done what the sledgehammer did. This was a car built in a time when speed records belonged to European supercars. Yet, an American tuner took a Corvette, bolted on some turbos, and sent it screaming past 250 miles per hour, decades before anyone else managed the same feat. It remains one of the most outrageous, awe-inspiring and downright insane Corvettes ever built. And if we're honest, it might still be the best Corvette of all time. Because while today's hypercars rely on hybrid systems, launch control, and enough computers to power a space station, the sledgehammer did it with nothing more than raw mechanical fury, and a belief that going fast was all that really mattered. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you build a proper speed machine. But at the end of this video, I want to know what your opinion is on this car. If you guys enjoyed this video, please have a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you guys did like it, you'll most probably enjoy most of my other stuff. So just go through my channel, see if there's someone else to like. I'll check you guys in the next one. Cheers, eh?